Hello, Internet. It is I, Malik Aaron, and welcome back to Box Office Predictions. Today we are going to be talking about The Suicide Squad. Before we get to anything else, I just want to say this now. Whenever I say Suicide Squad, I'm talking about the 2016 movie. Whenever I say The Suicide Squad, I'm talking about the 2021 movie. That way, no one is confused. Got it? Great. So, as usual, we're going to be going over the pros and cons. So, let's get to it. Pros. This is a DC movie or a DCEU movie. I don't think they're calling it that anymore. It's so confusing. It's a DC movie. Let's just say that. And DC movies, let me look it up here. The DC Extended Universe. They're, well, their critical track record isn't too great, and we will get to that when we get to the cons. But their box office track record isn't too bad. I mean, Man of Steel made well over 600 million. Batman v Superman 800. The first Suicide Squad 700. Wonder Woman 800. Okay, Justice League was a bust, but still 600 million. Aquaman a billion. Yeah, like these numbers are nothing to scoff at. Like these movies make quite a bit of money if they're marketed right or if they have enough hype built around them. And obviously DC is a big old brand name recognition right there for all their characters. Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, etc. None of those characters are in this movie, but still, the DC name is strong in the world of movies. So that's obviously a pro. That's pro number one. Pro number two. Unlike the last Suicide Squad movie, the 2016 one, this movie is actually good. And I can say this because I actually saw the movie on Thursday night. And from personal experience, it is miles better than 2016 Suicide Squad, easily. And from reviews, it's like in the 90s, like a 93%, and its audience score is about the same. So this movie has good word of mouth. A lot of people are really liking this movie. They're liking how James Gunn, man who made the first two Guardians of the Galaxy movies and will make the third one, how he was able to take a property like this and give it his own personal touch, and it ended up working out fantastic. And also helped that Warner Brothers didn't screw up his vision like some of their other directors. They allowed him to make the movie he wanted to make, and as a result, the movie has high reviews. So yeah, that's obviously another pro. Strong reviews, strong audience reaction from what I've heard. So yeah, easy pro right there. Another pro, this is the only movie coming out this weekend, and it has no real direct competition because most of the competition is pretty much dead now. The last action movie that come out was Snake Eyes, and that absolutely tanked. And well, next weekend we do have Free Guy, but that's aiming more towards a bit of a younger audience in comparison to the Suicide Squad, because the Suicide Squad is rated R. Free Guy's PG-13, so it's not super direct. So when it comes to like straight up direct competition, I mean, there's Shang-Chi in September, so it pretty much has the whole month to itself, at least for its genre. So I guess we can consider that a pro. I guess another pro. This movie has a lot of recognizable names attached. You got Idris Elba, Margot Robbie, John Cena. You got Sylvester Stallone as a walking, talking, man-eating shark. You know, this movie is quite the cast. Not as strong as the first Suicide Squad, which had Will Smith, Jared Leto, but it's still strong enough to convince people to watch it. So I would consider that a pro. Another pro is that the R-rated comic book movie. Like if we were talking about this movie like a decade ago, I would have said it was box office poison because R-rated comic book movies just didn't do well back then. Watchmen, Kick-Ass, they didn't do that great. But then Deadpool happened and it kind of changed the game. Like Deadpool, Logan, Deadpool 2, Joker, especially Joker making $1 billion, the first and only R-rated movie to do so. That's crazy. That means there's serious money in R-rated comic book movies. So that could, well, that means like this movie wasn't just doomed from the get-go. It had a chance, had a strong chance. So I would consider that a somewhat of a pro, that the R rating isn't a death sentence, as proven by Deadpool and all the other movies I mentioned. Okay, cons. This is the sequel slash reboot to 2016 Suicide Squad, a movie that was fueled by hype and excellent, excellent, excellent marketing. As you know, for the original Suicide Squad, the trailer that went that had the song, Bohemian Rhapsody attached to it. That trailer changed the entire movie because with like the first Comic Con trailer from like 2015, that had that presented a much different movie. That presented a pretty dark film, but then the Bohemian Rhapsody trailer presented a more comical, colorful, crazy film. And Warner Brothers decided we should make our movie more like that trailer, and so they had to re-edit, reshoot, just try to make the movie like the trailer. And the end result was a bit of a disaster, to be honest, a complete mess. That was a movie that was obviously butchered by the studio, and it was received terribly by a lot of people. Some people calling it the worst superhero movie ever, and I'm just like, really, the worst? Like, I know it wasn't good, but I don't know. I wouldn't say it's the worst. I feel like there's several movies that are worse than the first Suicide Squad. Wonder Woman 1984, Batman v Superman, Justice League, the theatrical cut, Fan Four Stick. Well, at least these are the ones I've seen. A Dark Phoenix. Yeah, like I consider all those movies to be worse than the first Suicide Squad. So, but it was still received badly. And so this could be a case. No matter how good this movie, the Suicide Squad is, it might be a situation where the sequel has to pay for its predecessor's sins, and that's unfortunate because the new Suicide Squad is actually really good. So it's kind of a shame that this movie has to suffer because of its predecessor's reputation. But that's just how it is. So I would consider that a con. Bad predecessor, and obviously bad predecessor means people aren't willing to, go through the same experience again. So I would consider that a con. Another con, the marketplace isn't that great. It's never been great ever since the pandemic began. But yeah, I think now it's just, well, it's not growing. It's not growing. We're kind of like in this standstill. Like nothing's going up, nothing's going down. And if I was talking about this movie like a month ago, I would have said, "Oh, it'll open with like 50 million or something." I thought it would have done better than average, but considering how many movies that have come out in recent memory, including Black Widow, that underperformed, yeah, that that is a bad sign for this movie. So I consider that a con. Somewhat lackluster marketplace. Another con, obviously, pandemic, this Delta variant situation that might eat a bit into this movie's box office. By how much, I don't know. It didn't really eat into Jungle Cruise's box office too much. In fact, that movie overperformed. So who knows what will happen? But it's still something to note that it could have a negative effect. So I consider that a con. Another con, HBO Max. This is obviously a part of the HBO Max experiment. And obviously that's going to cut into its gross a bit, especially due to piracy. And with the HBO Max movies, like the only one that's really done stellar, somewhat stellar, was Godzilla vs Kong. That made like 100 million domestic, over 400 million worldwide. This is not going to match that. At least I don't think so. And with all the others, they've done mediocre to bad when it comes to box office. I mean, we're talking like Mortal Kombat did Space Jam 2 bombed. Uh like those are the ones that I can think of that had significant fan bases. Well, I guess there's Conjuring 3 did okay-ish. Overall it had, and also the first HBO Max uh movie, a part of the experiment, Wonder Woman 1984, the last DC movie, in fact, that tanked hard. Granted, that was released at a terrible, terrible time for movies. That movie had zero chance at all. So, yeah, like HBO Max is gonna cut into this movie's box office. By how much, I don't know, but it definitely will cut into it. So I'll consider that a con. What else can I consider a con? Oh yeah, Birds of Prey. I forgot to mention Birds of Prey. Yeah, that was before Wonder Woman 1984, there was Birds of Prey, which was the spin-off to Suicide Squad, mainly focused on Harley Quinn, who's also in the Suicide Squad. Yeah, that movie did terrible by DC standards. Although by pandemic standards, it looks like a smash hit. But still, like Birds of Prey didn't do well. It was kind of doomed from the get-go. And so that might negatively affect this movie too, because it also features Harley Quinn. Again, by how much I don't know, but it could have some type of negative effect. So I would consider that a con too. I can't think of anything else, any other factors, both negative and positive. Yeah, I think that's it. So opening weekend, if we were talking about this movie a month ago, I would have said 50 million, no doubt. But now that's not going to happen at all. Uh, and judging by its preview numbers, yeah, this movie's not going to do too great. I mean, the highest opening weekend for an HBO Max Warner Brothers movie up to this point has been Godzilla vs. Kong. That's at 32 million. Could the Suicide Squad beat that? Perhaps, but I'm not going to bet a significant amount of money on it. So I'm going to say anywhere in the range of 30 to 35 million for the 3 day, which would be 100 million less than its predecessor. So that's a humongous yikes. But for pandemic standards, it's not the absolute worst. So there's that. And overall, ooh, that's the legs of these HBO Max movies tend to be quite short, even ones that are well received. So I'm gonna guess 70 to 80 million. This is just me being pessimistic, but that's why I think where this movie is gonna end up. It, at the very least, it should surpass. It has to surpass Birds of Prey. If it can make more money than that, I would consider it a small, tiny success on that regard. But by any other measure, the movie's a flop, which is, again, unfortunate because it's really good. And I think you should watch it because it's quite entertaining. But yeah, that's what I think is going to happen. So yeah, that's the Suicide Squad for you. So next weekend we got 3 movies to talk about. Don't Breathe 2, Free Guy, Respect. Then the week after that, 4 movies: Night House, Paw Patrol, Protege, Reminiscence. And then the end of the month, we got Candyman, and then that'll be August for you. So, yeah. Anywho, yeah, that's it. That's all. Make sure to subscribe, like this video, leave a comment, turn on notifications, share the whole drill. Want to check out more videos like this? I got a playlist on the homepage of all previous movies I covered this year. From your Godzilla vs. Kongs, to your Tom and Jerry's, to your Mortal Kombats, to your Space Jam 2s, your Conjuring 3s, your In the Heights, pretty much all the HBO Max experiment movies, including this one. So if you want to watch any of them, you can go right ahead. There's also the canceled series where I go over all the movies that were supposed to come out but didn't, or at least they were supposed to come out at a certain time but didn't. Funny enough, the Suicide Squad never got delayed once. It's stuck to this date, no matter what. Mainly because the movie was already filmed before COVID screwed everything up. So all they had to do was edit it. So there was literally no reason to delay it. So that's a fun fact for you. But if you want to watch any of my canceled episodes, there's now 72 episodes. You can go right ahead. That way you're up to date on all these movies. There's also box office recaps where I go over the box office results for any particular month. Just did the July recap yesterday. That's we cover quite some pretty interesting stuff that month. So if you want to watch that or any of my past recap videos, pandemic or pre-pandemic, you can go right ahead. And yeah, that's it. That's all. I am out. Goodbye.